Hello, this is Max Drake. I'd like to talk to you about this timesheet app. I want to take a little bit further this time. So far, what we've been doing is quite passive in a way. We're inputting information and that's going through there. What I think the power of some of these apps that we can do is that we can actually start looking at having a list of the projects that we're working on, and we can see the budget. And so we can actually see a percentage of the budget and see where we are in relation to that. So suddenly we're able to participate more in overall things. Now, I've worked in a lot of offices and people are always screaming at me that the budget, because somebody else is controlling it. I'm just putting my timesheet stuff in and suddenly saying, oh, look, we've gone through 90%. And you suddenly think, well, if I knew that, I would have screamed at you earlier that, we're only 50% through the project. We've got a couple of sticking points that we've needed to actually resolve. So, this way you can actually inform people a bit more so that people can actually participate and make a better communication cycle all the way through. So that's where we're going to do exploring. So we're going to look at how to set it up, and then we're going to look at how we're going to do the interfaces and that. I'm only going to take it so far, then I'll most probably move on to a different sort of an app. At this point in time, I'm thinking of a financial one, of just a budgeting type app, because that's one thing I actually want to compare Honeycode with a Glide app one. I've got a Glide app that does that, and I'd like to see how quickly they both respond. So it'd be nice to do a comparative one from that point of view of just a user case, because I find they're very handy to use and I find they're very flexible, these mobile apps, and especially since you can code your own without too much coding. So we'll step into this now, and first of all, I just want to do me a little bit of begging here. I'm doing these videos. I've got about 44 on the Glide, 42, I think 43 on the Glide apps, and I would like to do a whole load more on the Honeycode ones, and I hope that they help people out. And if people have got something specific they're interested in, if they're patrons through here, I'll listen to a lot of what their feedback would be like. And in fact, in some ways, I see this as an opportunity that I can get a feedback of what people are interested in. I've got the patronage quite low, from $150 per month plus GST, which is 50%, or $3 a month. With the $3 a month, I'm going to be writing blogs and I'm going to be putting a bit more information on there. And in some ways, to make that happen, I'm going to skip certain steps in the videos just so that the patrons actually get some more money, some more benefit by actually contributing in a way, which is not necessarily the frame that I want to use, but I do need some support, and so that's where I'm going to. So the first thing I actually want to do is just recap where we've gone with this app. So first of all, we started off with the table. And we had the table, and then I was running into all sorts of things with that table because of the fact that I was overwriting data. I was trying to format and do formulas inside the table using the formatting, and then it was just getting blown away. So I was getting quite scrappy data within my things, and there wasn't the continuity, so it wasn't falling in right. And what we actually found out was that when we're in the app itself, the critical one is the inputting. The cells that those go into, the columns that data goes into, don't put any formulas in there because they're just going to get blown away. So that's your first thing. Just make sure you know where the stuff is coming in, because pushing those data from the mobile interface here into certain cells on the table or certain columns, that's the first stuff that you're going in, and then you can start manipulating how that information is used. So that's one thing. The other thing that we did, we ended up with a link sheet. So we used RowLink to pull from another table project names. And once we actually got the project names through there, we could actually get the project client and the project code and all of that sort of rubbish as well. And it came across through the RowLinks. So we actually ended up with just a generalized app overall, but then when we were reviewing the information, we were reviewing everybody's information on that. So we could make it so that only the timesheet was specific to a certain person. But what we're going to do today on the budgeting sorts of causes problems with that. So it's better to actually just have one table with everybody's information in, because then you can start doing some assessments and adding things up and everything like that. So On that, we started to filter. So we filtered so that only specific users could see their own specific data. So what they logged in as, when we shared that app with them, when they logged in, it filtered out so that it only showed their app. We then tested that with other ones to make sure that they actually occurred. And in the first one as well, we also talked about calculating time and how to do it with, we got time set up through some, and we've got just numbers set up through others, and how the two work, and how we could overwrite on the total so that we could give a start time, an end time, and a lunch time, and if we're working on projects for a few days at a time, and then we could actually just allocate time specifically per project just by giving the total number, so we didn't have to do that. Now I just there's one thing I just want to talk about, bugs, but so that was the thing, and sorry, and I'll come back to that one there. So the next thing that we actually did on the second one is, after filtering that, we then wanted to do further filtering, because if we're doing an app and we're doing a timesheet, and we're doing a timesheet for a week or for months, and we've got a lot of projects and stuff going on, suddenly our screen's going to be filled up with a lot of data that we're having to scroll down to. So we started to look at filters. So when we looked at filters, we could filter by either the project number, and then we also did some filters by bounding dates. You can filter a lot of other things, but these were just examples that we actually used just to show. And then that's where we got to at the end of the second video. Now, this is something that I just want to talk about, is when you're actually developing apps yourself, you'll get so far and you may need some help from other people. Now, there is the community stuff, and because when you log in to your actual app itself, when you log in, there's another level of access. You've got the little question mark down here, or else you can log into the community and you can actually go and put a thing. And if you log in, you've got to do a further login into the community, and that gives you an ID through there as well. And what you can do inside that community is that you can look at all the categories, unanswered, all topics, and if there's bugs and things like that, then you can actually highlight those. Now, I did one before. I don't know where it is. I've got one. No, they've just got the welcome. I think I dismissed the other ones off there. You can add another topic, so you would go and do that sort of thing, and they're quite handy. And then they've got upvotes and things, and then they've got other things in that community through here of your suggestions of what you think you'd like to see, and some community discussions, some knowledge center. There's some courses where you can step through and do that sort of stuff. Now, I was putting some questions through into here, and one that I put through was how to do time. Now, if I just go back to this one here, I went through and I actually put a time in here, and what I actually, when I said I've got a time value in start, I've got a time value in end, and I'm using a number in lunch, how do I make that work? And they said, oh no, you make the lunch time. But if you try and put this as 0, let's just go and take through here, and we're just going to put 0, and we're going to put 0. It doesn't. It says, please enter a valid date. So it goes back and puts down 12. Now that, to me, it's actually sensible, so that's wrongly formatted. So but one of the things, if that was a bug or something, you're suddenly saying, you know, like, I could actually just put and it won't. Now it's 12 a.m. It's only, it then goes to 1 a.m. I think. So you know, as soon as you try and put 0 in there, it just doesn't. So you can do a 0:30, but it ends up at 12:30 a.m. and then it ends up as 1. So you can put 1 hour into there, and if that's 1, then you can actually do this minus this one to do that. So if we said that was a bug, and that isn't a bug, but let's just say this one here is a bug, what I actually find is that I just do a little video clip, or I reference a video that I've done where I actually show that bug occurring, because I found when I was doing the glide apps and with the community and I was finding bugs in there, they found, rather than 15 paragraphs trying to explain and bouncing back and forwards and saying, well, here's the app or whatever, and here's the share, you just show it on video as to what's actually happening. They can replicate that fault, and then they can say, yeah, okay, then we're going to fix that quite easily. So referencing a video or doing a screenshot is sometimes the best way of doing that sort of thing. So just saying, I just find you see a lot of the discussions in some of these, and a lot of the backwards and forwards is the communication hasn't worked too well. So little snippets of videos I do find work well. So okay then, with all of those things out of the way, I'm now going to jump into the app as to where we are. So what our objective is at this point in time is to work out budgeting, and then we want a budget, so we want an overview on a screen of some description through here, where we could see if we selected a certain thing, or we actually have a list of a thing, we can see the budget and where it is at the moment. So how do we do that? So I don't want to do a simplistic budget and just suddenly says, well, everybody's the same. I want to go through and talk about another couple of things. So I'm going to do it from a point of view of a design office that I do. So this could be web development design or whatever. I'm just thinking of the sort of an architectural design officer or engineering design offices. You've got engineers who cost more than draftsmen, and then you've got support staff and things like that, and you're paying the bills for the property, and you've got computer and your IT stuff and everything that all needs to be billed for. A lot of the methods that they use is they have a multiplier, so they actually charge out by hourly rate. So they say that project there is going to need 50 hours of an engineer and 75 hours of a draftsman. So whatever we pay those people, the engineer, we might pay $100 an hour or $150 an hour, we will put a multiplier onto them, and a standard multiplier is somewhere around the 2.5 to 3.5 multiplier, and that allows for rental in the office, that allows for paying people who cannot charge directly to the project. So you're saying the people who charge directly to the project, there's all this extra stuff that has to be charged, so we add another 1.5 times what we pay them, and that's what we're doing. So this is what I'm actually working through on this particular one. So on the other one, on the project, first of all, we actually have the project and we have the project budget. Now, again, this project budget I'm doing very simplistically just by ABC projects. Now, that project may be broken down into several levels. In a design fee proposal or something like that, you'd actually you'd give them a big lump sum at the end. But basically, the standard one is 10% for preliminary design, 10% for developed design, 60% for working drawings, and 20% for supervision. So that ends up as about your 100%. So where you see that happening is, say you go from a concept to something that's semi-workable, then you actually make construction drawings, and then there's the tender process and so your whole things and management of that side of things. So people come in at different parts of the project, and depending on if somebody's negotiating a contract on behalf of the client and things like that, or talking and doing the tenders, you've got a manager of a higher level. So you've got all these different fees. So how do we manage that? Well, what we're going to do is that we're going to create a new project, and we're going to actually have their pay rates of the people that we've got through here, and we're going to have their charge out rates. Now, we could actually just put the charge out rates and hide this pay rate through here. And this comes down to a point of transparency and also privacy of what information you want to be private or accessible to people. Which brings me to another point of the discussion with the Honeycode thing through here. So in the Honeycode interface through here, I'm building these apps. So this is if I come through here, is it there I come through? No, it's not there. It's somewhere. This is my team. So this is my team and this is my profile. So I can share this app with other people. Now I can share just the app, and I've got my 20 people in my teams. In fact, I think there's only one other person I've got in my team. I can share this with 19 other people for free, and then I've got to get charged for the extra one through there. But I can just share the app. So if they give them the app, whatever they see in the interface of the app is what I want to show them. So this is something that I'll tag through here. I've then got an open one through here. So I've got one that's filtered by users only. So I am conscious about what I'm actually showing them on that. So I'm showing them what we've done on the other one. We've filtered the information out so they only see what happens on that level. So what level do we want to show them maybe something more? Now, we might say for the draftsman, we want to show a draftsman filter. So they only see the stuff. They don't see the budget. But then we actually have the engineers or the higher people or the associates and things, and then they have that. And then we actually have the accounting side of people where they can see the whole interface because they're actually balancing up those budgets. So only the people who are actually building the app who've got access at this level, so let's just see who's sharing that. These are the only people. So after you've actually built the app and you don't need it, you can actually just remove these people from it. So there's only one person who actually has supreme control over that sort of thing. And depending on who you actually have, if you've got a manager app, you can just not share with anybody at all. So that share person there is only the supreme or whoever. So that's a way of keeping your data private. So we can drill down through there. But in some ways, if people are out there and they got information on certain things, they can help respond because they're down on the working face and they've got information. You can then take this app from being a passive, just inputting, to actually being a reactive app where people can actually help and inform, which will actually help some of the tendering for later work is that you're getting your pricing a bit more accurate. So doing this, you might actually only want to show the charge out rate for specific users, and maybe they don't need to see a lot of that. They don't need to see that calculation. And in fact, if we look at this one here, if we see what they see, they just see their input time and their endpoint time there. What we are looking at here is that we maybe want to show them some budget through here. So we want to show them some budget. Now, what we could do is that we could show them the beginning budget, and we could show them, oh, I've done it again. I'm just going to change tables. We could show them the overall budget, and we could show them how much we've actually used up so that they can actually see where we are. Or we could just give a percentage. So if they're suddenly saying we're halfway through the construction set of drawings and we're at 91%, then they know that they've overblown. Or at a specific point on preliminary design. And preliminary design's a bit of a fuzzy one in a way. You're trying to make pretty and do stuff, and a lot of the times you get really enthusiastic about it and you sort of go over what you really need to do sometimes. So there's times when you being conscious of what the budget is limiting. But because this will automatically update as you go along, and this one here is just the budget used, current budget or over, what's that, budget used? So the budget used divided by the overall budget. So we can see that we're at 95%, 91%. So maybe for the lower people in the teams, you show them that information and then they're engaged in that. So therefore they take a little bit of responsibility about certain bits of the project. Now that's just given an overall number, so they can't work back what theirs is, especially if at this point in time, you're only showing them their timesheet. So you're not actually saying off the end here how much you're charging them out or any of those things. So depending on where you want to go, you can give them more information or less information. So that's just something that I'm commenting through. You can do some nice little games through here and certain things. So how does this work? So first of all, we got the budgets, the projects through here, and we got to sum the projects, and then we've got the users. So basically what I want in this table here is that I want to multiply the total time by the charge out rate to see how much that bit of work has cost. So how do I get my charge out rate? So therefore I need to do a row link with this. So on this particular one here, I've got to link this across to this table R. So it's got a link across to here. It will do a lookup through here, and then it'll pull this information out. So it says, look this up and go and get me the charge out rate. Then I can actually multiply those. Now, who's seeing that? The only person who's seeing this is the person who's actually got authority to see the app and the tables at this point in time. So those are only those head honcho people of these two people here. So again, this is the privacy, and this is what you have to think about with the app, and this is why trialing the apps with dummy data is quite a good thing, because you can then log in under a whole load of other assumed ones to see what other people are seeing, to see that the privacy or the level of transparency that you want is actually getting what you want. You can, as I said as well, you can have a lot of people who collaborate on this with a dummy load of data, and then you can stop them being collaborators and just drop them off and only give them access through here once you're using it. So I think that's quite an interesting thing in a business app, is that you do sort of manage it as to how people are actually seeing that stuff. So it's nice to tag that. So on the R now, so we link that across to that table there, and then we can do that calculation. So if we suddenly saying, well, the next project round, we're making a new project, we're going to charge that guy out and put a higher multiplier on them. So the next time round, we actually found that didn't work. So we need to, instead of the charge out rate, you see the other thing that we could do in there is that we can insert another column through there. Oh, I think it says, this is a bit, just insert a column, but it doesn't. It says to the left or to the right, where we just say multiplier. And then we could actually have a 2.5. And this one here might be a 2.7 or something. We just find that certain things work a bit better just because of the way that they work or something. So you could actually have the output is equal to that. And we can to do it that way. So that means you can actually just do the adjustment. I'm just going to copy and paste that into there at this point in time. So we can actually say, well, it works out better if we put a higher multiplier on there, so 2.9 or something like that. So it's quite easy to actually adjust those as you go. Boom. So now we've got that. So now we've got the total. So now we've got that done. Now what we can actually do is that we can filter through here and we can say project A, and it just filters. So we've got to somehow sum all of that up and then allocate that through to here. But I'm not telling you how to do that. I'm going to actually put that into blog posts so that the people who are on my tier can actually see that information. So yeah, again, you can look it up and you work it all out yourselves anyway. So so that's what we're doing, is that we're basically doing some form of method of actually only getting that part allocated through there, pulling it through to there. Then we can do that minus that, and then we can actually do a percentage to see how much we've got through here. And then this column's going through, and it's just saying the budget used over the budget, and we can see what percentage we've used. So that's how we've got that. So now let's just move across now and look at the interface. Now, I'm going to shove everything on the interface at this point in time. So at this point in time, I've actually got this interface here that if I just go into the P details, if I pull down a particular project, it's showing me something that I want. That isn't what I want. So we come back to here and we actually just go and we do a column list, because that's a nice thing that we found that actually filters. So we can filter by the project. So what do we want to see in our filter? We want to see the name. We don't really want the code and the client. We want to see the budget. This is one. Now, you could choose to show people the budget, or you could just choose to show them a column. And the column one is the percentage column of how much of the budget you use. So that just says of whatever funds we've got, we've used this much. But in some ways, if you didn't know what the whole magnitude of the was, you know, is a change from 90 to 95 a big leap, or is that just a small increment of the budget, you know? And you need a duration for lower down people if that's all you're actually giving them. So percentages can be dangerous. Because we're just playing with this app at this point in time, I'm going to show everything through here. So we're going to show all of those, and we're going to allow the user to filter the list, and we're going to let them filter it on the name, so the project name through here. We could do some more elaborate filtering through there. We're not going to at this point in time. This is all we're doing. We're just going to create this. And again, this is really the logic behind how we're doing that. So we've created that. So again, the other thing that we could do on here is that somehow we could do a further filtering so that we actually associated the people with specific projects, so that they only see when we come to this app here, we could filter that. Now, because this is page P, this doesn't show who's on this. It just says the project, and that's the budget. Now, we could somehow do a filter so that we can identify all of the people that work on that project. So when we come to the app through here, they can only, what they're seeing is all the projects they're associated with. So they don't, if they've got 50 projects in the office and they're only working on 5, it's too much data. That's not what you want. You could filter that down if you wanted to, or depending on who you're doing it through. But you'd actually have, again, this is only giving the data that's there. We'd need to have some association somehow to be able to get that one through. And I'm not going into how to do that. All we're doing is we're just giving an overview on the thing, and we're doing that. So now we've got that in there. Let's go and look at the information. So now we've got the budget of each one, we've got the budget used, and we've got the budget current. So we've only got $147 left. So we're in doo-doo off that if we're only 30% through the project. So what this means is that people can respond to that and actually tag it and see it. They've got it in their app. So when they're actually doing their timesheet, they can actually check this one tab. So they're filling in their timesheet through there. And then they can look at the budgets overall and suddenly saying, whoa, where's where we're meant to be. Again, if they're working on 50 budgets or something like that, you might want to filter by specific budgets that they just want to go and look at and just go and check on and something like that. So we can do that there as well. So that's as far as I want to take that point of it. Then there's an extra little bit that I want to talk about, and this is another powerful thing within Honeycode, is that we've got a notification. Now, what we can do is to say, when we reach a certain trigger point, you better start telling people, because, somebody just might be just doing the timesheet input all the way through. They never look at this. And suddenly, what actually happens is, I'm just going to take that off and clear that there. Suddenly, where are we going? I think it's budget A. Where's an A? Instead of 1.5 hours, he put 6 hours in on that one there. And when we go and look at our thing, we've gone over our budget. We've gone over our budget by 1,500, just because our budget there was set at 4,000 or whatever, and that's the budget used. So how do we want people to do that? So what we can do is that we can just go to, we've got to be in the app, and then this just goes into the automation phase. Boom. So we're going to make an automation. What are we going to do with that automation? We're going to say when a column changes. So we're making the automation based on a column. So it says what table? We're going to say table P. And we're going to select the column. Now, what we're monitoring is the budget current. And what we actually want to mod it, so we want to say when this event is true, that's going to trigger, that we're going to look at that column, and when we've got a formula in here, which is equal to budget used minus, and we just open brackets, budget, is larger than 0. You could do it the other way around. I'm getting confused with some of these. Is larger than 0. Then we're going to trigger that. Then we're going to trigger an event. An action. So the action that we're going to do is we're going to notify people. So when bad things happen, spread the blame. Just do it properly. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to type in M, and it's going to give me a list of a lookup of, I think, people in the team. So I'm going to say, let's spread it around to everybody. When you're going to get stressed, just cause a crisis. It's always fun. So we can say blowout of budget. Hurrah. I don't think they like that part of it. And then we can say, start running for the hills. And if we come down to here, attach link to app. What this does is anybody who's using that filter app, they get a notification. So now we can publish that. And let's just see what actually happens. Publish. The automation is being published. Please wait. Automation published successfully. So that has now published our app. And if we look in here, budget blowout. I had one before and it was called blowout budget. Oh no, hasn't come through yet. No, those are the older ones, I think. That happened 30 minutes ago. And when you get these notifications, you can just delete them. So it actually hasn't come through there. Oh no, blowout or budget. So that, no. No, I got hurrah on that one. So let's just see what actually happens there. The other one that is done is it should have sent me an email. So if I go into my emails down the bottom there, budget blowout or blowout of budget, or one of them is, I've got them through there, and I've also got them in the other ones through here. So those ones have come through as well. So it's sent an email, so that's outside the app interface, but also when you're actually on the mobile phone, you'll actually have a little, you've got your Honeycode icon. It will actually show as a notification on there. So when you open it, you can look at your notifications and it's suddenly saying, oopsie, something's not looking good on a certain project. So somebody's got to go and do some stuff. Hasn't quite come through on that one there yet. But that's how that part of it works. So it's good for trigger points. So we've just made this app, instead of just a simple timesheet app and inputting and filtering and actually just having it so that somebody viewed, we've now given people a further level of stuff to do. You know, and on top of that, you could then add a button so that if somebody on the page which has got the information here, you could actually have a button down here that would take you to another screen that would be hidden, that you could email somebody in the team or something like that, and you could actually just say, oh, I'm out and about or something like that. Instead of ringing them up, you actually just do a click on a button, and it's then from the user, so it'll actually have your email address, and you could go and push something directly, even if it's lower down, like it's at 16%, and you're suddenly thinking no, or you know it's something like 40%. You're suddenly thinking no, we're only 20% through the project or something like that. You could then inform people of that as to when you review it. The other thing that you can do is that, you know, another cunning thing is when you actually test this done, instead of when you've actually done, it takes you back to this page. You could take them to this page so that they just get the overview of the app. Now, if that's if we've hidden the budget and all the actual numbers and all they see is just a column of the percentages, even then that's informative, and it makes sure that when they're actually putting something into their timesheet, that they are actually reviewing where they are in the projects at the same time. So you can add a bit of intelligence through to that. So anyway, I hope that was of interest to you. Again, please consider becoming a patron. I will put some information on the formulas and how I actually set up allowing some of these things all to be calculated based on those other tables. You can drill down and do them if you don't want to, and that's fine as well. But that is only will be available for the people who are on the larger the $3 a month, which will be going up to $5 after the certain limit. Okay then, thank you very much for watching. Please give a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe as well. I suddenly saw on YouTube that there are benefits if you get more subscribers. I've never bothered with it before, but that would be appreciated as well. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.